This all started last September.
Darnold against his former team and throwing on first down and completing to Christian McCaffrey with room to run. Darnold is going to keep it himself. A Darnold touchdown run.
Sam Darnold and his new team, the Carolina Panthers, got off to one of the hottest starts. To get a better understanding of how to project who could potentially get off to the hottest start this year and have their rookie cards break out in value as a result, we need to go back to the past and examine what happened at the beginning of last year and who was impacted. So let's dig in. All right, now real quick, if you're new here, welcome to the Football Card Quest. My name is Andy. If you want to learn all about collecting, investing, and maximizing your return on investment while having a ton of fun parlaying your fantasy football knowledge with football card investing and all of the really cool football card stuff, make sure you hit that subscribe button, that little bell notification icon so you don't miss out on a single step on the quest. So let's go back in the history books and look at the week 1 schedule from last year and look at how some of these teams finished. Remember a close finish of Buccaneers against Cowboys. This did more for Dak Prescott's cards in this Thursday night opener than it did for Tom Brady and his supporting cast. Then you look at the Seahawks and the Colts, and the Seahawks absolutely destroyed them in a 28-16 match, but did this really impact Russell Wilson's graded PSA 10 card? And I will tell you that no, it didn't, because if you really scroll here and expand the entire chart for Russ, going back to September of 2020, his cards got up to almost $3,000 for his base Prism PSA 10 here. So they kind of cooled off from that premium inflated price there, and then they got back up to like $1,500 in the draft hype cycle of 2021. And this is going to be a common theme that you guys see throughout this video, is that this was an absolute peak for a lot of players' cards between the Super Bowl and the draft of 2021. And throughout the summer, they kind of decreased, they kind of cooled off. Heading into the season, where this $5,100 transaction, you've got to rule out because it's only one. It was absolute anomaly. But you can see the beginning of the season, this card was about $1,250. So the other thing that I look at is I go back here in the sold transactions and I want to see if those were in fact buy it nows or if they were auctions. And you can see there were a couple $1,200 buy it now transactions here. Legitimate sold transactions for $1,250, $1,300 on September 5th. And it's important to note that this game was September 12th. So this was hype heading into the season. Now we look here at September 12th. We see a couple auctions that closed that was probably a savvy seller that ended their auction while that game was going down or right on kickoff, but those cards closed at $1,000, still $300 lower than the previous week, the previous Sunday leading into the season when those buy it nows occurred. And so you can see actually after that Sunday's match, there were not any more sales for another 11 days there, leading us to believe that the performance that Russell Wilson had there in the win over the Colts was not enough to really move the needle on a guy's card who's already a perennial Hall of Famer, 2-time Super Bowl appearance, 1-time Super Bowl winner, and they lose to the Titans in week 2. So he wasn't able to actually keep that momentum going into the following weeks, which would have helped his case out here a lot. The next person I want to look at is Sam Darnold, who had arguably the best start to 2021 out of any quarterback. There was a couple things he had going for him. One was he switched teams. He switched teams from the New York Jets and being coached by Adam Gase and having mono to now getting a fresh start on the Panthers. The Panthers paid him starting QB salary, traded significant future draft capital for Sam Darnold, treated him like he was a premier quarterback in the NFL. Week 1, they beat the Jets 19-14. So you had a lot of media on this game with the Jets hype and the new rookie and Zach Wilson's first NFL start. So you had a lot of eyeballs on this game. The Panthers, between their defensive front and Christian McCaffrey, caught a lot of receptions in this game. Christian McCaffrey bounced back to his old form, and Sam Darnold made a couple good passes and also ran in a touchdown while also completing a touchdown to former Jets wide receiver Robbie Anderson. They win 19-14. And so let's look at what happened to Sam Darnold's base prism PSA 10. We get a lot of transactions for this card, so it gives us a really good look at what happened. So we can see here, ever since Sam Darnold got traded last offseason, free agency, talking about that draft hype cycle. Well, what happens right before the draft? We get free agency after the Super Bowl. So you can see when he's traded to the Panthers, all of a sudden there was this renewed hype for Sam Darnold's PSA 10 Prism. And this kind of continues throughout the draft, or about $250, and you can see it cooled off. This is that time period we're in right now, in the heart of the offseason, at the end of June, beginning of July, and then camps start, preseason starts, and you can see that card kind of take these little spikes, but overall it stays down a little bit as people are unsure if Sam Darnold's going to pan out. There's a polarizing opinions on Sam Darnold's performance, and that card is staying around $100 to $140, and then week one they go out and win. And you can see this when we go down and look at the transaction. Remember that week one game was September 12th of 2021. So we come down here and we see that on September 12th, 2021, there were a couple auctions. There was one that closed for $177.50. That was considerably higher. Now, it's possible there was a little chill in there, but maybe not. Maybe it was legitimate. And then there was one by Probstein, $136. And so this is throughout the week here. You can see towards the end of the week and that following Sunday, what happened in week two? Well, in week two of last year, the Carolina Panthers win again, this time against a much better team in the Saints. You can see how they had that super easy opening game against the Jets at home. Well, now they get the Saints at home, and guess what? They win again. So it's like maybe Sam Darnold is the real deal. And so you can see here, 19th, these auctions, these were actually buy it now transactions. So boom, this is when the people were able to make their most profit off of that hot start by Sam Darnold. And actually took 2 wins, and we saw these buy it now transactions pop off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 later that week. All right, and we see an auction that must have been a best offer accepted at $165. So we definitely see a clear hype increase. We see clear volume increase, demand. And so you can imagine if these transactions were occurring on his base prism PSA 10, this is probably going to permeate throughout the rest of his rookie cards, depending on the budget level of the investors, the people watching those games. And you can see as we get through week 3. Now, what happened in week 3? The Panthers win again. This time they get the Texans in a road game and they smash them 24-9. The combination of their defense, combination of the run game once again, and Sam Darnold rushing in another touchdown. So we can see what was the date on that game, September 23. So we go back to this chart and we see a more buy it now transaction. We see a clear price increase. Buy it now is on 10-3 of 105 heading into that week. That 4th week when they played the Cowboys would have been his best prices, and then they lost to the Cowboys. They were exposed, and then Sam Darnold from there on out goes down. He kind of maintains that even throughout after that loss against the Cowboys, because what I found is that it takes card investors, card collectors, a couple weeks to react. As you can see, it takes more than just the 1 week. I think you see your best movement, especially in higher end graded cards or even base cards, but they're in a really good grade. You can see them. It takes a couple weeks for those guys to respond, whether it's because those dealers are reacting and then listing a 7-day auction after the game, and so they're just now going to the following 7 days, or maybe they're doing a 10-day auction. They're starting it in the future, so they're starting it that week and they're starting it to end, go from Sunday to the following Sunday in a 10-day auction and starting it on Wednesday. So I find it very interesting. So you could see what happened to Sam Darnold there by looking at his base prism PSA 10. Then I went and looked at Teddy Bridgewater, who also got a new team last year in the Denver Broncos, and they also had a very favorable week 1 schedule, guys. Denver Broncos came out and had the Giants in week 1, and they won that game 27-13. Teddy Bridgewater doing some pretty good stuff there. And when we pop over, Teddy Bridgewater is a very interesting rookie year. In 2014, when Topps was in the game, there is just a bunch of different product, and a lot of it is graded with BGS. It's graded with PSA, but maybe it's not in a 10 form. So I actually found some of the best sales transaction data on his rookie ticket auto from 2014, which comes in a variety of formats as well. But if we go back, you can see the draft hype whenever he was acquired by the Denver Broncos. He had this card selling in a buy it now format for roughly $150. And leading into the season, there were a couple more buy it now transactions at $200, $225 as well. However, we saw only one auction on 10-2 for $192.50. So definitely a clear increase from before being acquired by the Denver Broncos, but not a whole lot if you go back and look at his 2020 season whenever he was playing with, ironically, the Carolina Panthers. So I looked at a bunch more cards. So this was Teddy Bridgewater's 2014 finest. Found some interesting transactions on that. If you can see here, week 1, there was a buy it now transaction of $85. So you like to see that. There was a nice little reach there, especially when you correlate an auction that ended that same day for $26. And then there was a buy it now for $85 after the win. Another buy it now 8 days later. But see, what's interesting is you go look at week 2 for the Broncos. They beat the Jaguars, so they do win again. But then in week 3, the Broncos beat the Jets 26-0 in a very impressive defensive show, September 26th. And then we keep going to week 4. So they were another team that started out 3-0. They get smashed by the Ravens. There, who ironically lost in week 1 to the Las Vegas Raiders in what was a pretty spectacular game that went to overtime. So it's important to kind of look at these differences here, and you can definitely see that there was considerable amount of hype for Teddy Bridgewater. It was not too bad, especially for a guy who's entering, he was entering his 7th year in the league and was certainly not like a spring chicken at that point. So I pulled up another rookie ticket auto here to see another buy it now reach heading into the season. Definitely a clear increase from what his preseason numbers were at, from what his draft hype cycle numbers were at, where you saw a ton of buy it now. Look at all these buy it now transactions. I'm specifically focusing on these 2021 draft hype cycle buy it now transactions for $150. This one's interesting because it only ended at $85. Someone got an absolute steal there at $85 on that card. They would have made some nice money that year, because look at it throughout the draft hype cycle and then throughout the season, that best transaction. So if the person had their card listed for $240 in this time period when Teddy Bridgewater was winning those games, they would have capitalized. And that's another big thing, is like, you got to have those cards listed during that window when Teddy Bridgewater is going off. So I actually, with Teddy Bridgewater has 4 different base prism photo variations, and that is important to note. So when you look at this one, some of these you want to verify because they could be different photo variations. But let's go back to 2021 here. You see draft hype cycle, $70 buy it now transactions. Now, I want to hear from you guys in the comment section below that have been on the quest for more than a year, or roughly a year, that we're getting in. What did you notice? What stood out to you the most at the beginning of last season in terms of movement in the card market based on the schedule, based on the performances we saw on the field? Was there any big skill position movement? I'm focusing on quarterbacks because we know they drive the market. They have the easiest path to a breakout in terms of rookie card value because of the nature of the sport and how often they touch the ball and the whole 9 yards. So I want to hear from you guys in the comment section below about that. And if you like the video, hit that thumbs up. Now back to the action. All right, so we're looking at a couple more Teddy Bridgewater prisms. Basically anything that I can find from when he was winning those games and went 3-0 with the Denver Broncos at the beginning of last season. And you can see a couple more buy it now transactions here in September of 2021, around that same time after they went 3-0. Remember that week 3 game, look at the schedule, September 19th. So this would have been that following week after he won that 3rd game buy it now transaction. You can actually see, okay, this one was a leaning forward silver prism. So we have to correlate that against these other ones, which I can't verify if that one was silver. I can verify that one was Panini logo, which is short print, but not the silver variation. This one is silver, so we do have a leaning forward silver there, so we can correlate those two together. That was September. Not a big movement there, but also another rare card, so it's tough to get a good idea. Here we can see an auction of this orange prism autograph, which would have been color matched to the Denver Broncos at the time. There wouldn't have been cards of him in his Denver Broncos uniform. That's one area Panini does not do good, is, you know, capturing those players on their new team quick enough. And so you can see here, September 29th, 2021, this card ended in auction for $300, 34. And the last transaction before that was March 2021 in that draft hype cycle. Buy it now of 130, and we could just compare this real quick. Yeah, someone got him a nice deal there because they would have been able to flip that card. That's serial number ending in 1105, so not the same card. Just important to note there. I'm just curious to see if 737. Oh, okay, so there you go. There was the person who flipped that card. Looks like someone bought it in a Probstein auction in November 26, 2020. You can see the serial number there of 262-33737, and then they sold it in a buy it now transaction on 3/21, Seeking Slabs, 262-33737. So same exact card there. PSA 10 was able to make a nice $50 profit before fees there. So good job to Seeking Slabs, but you can see how they capitalize. And this is ultimately what I feel is one of the best strategies, is buy during November and then sell on the draft hype cycle. Next guy I want to look at is Jalen Hurts, because he had a really good start to week 1. We also know that he had a good finish to his rookie year. And there was definitely some promise there. He did not get to start the entire rookie year. And so coming into year 2, there was a lot of speculation, a lot of polarizing opinions on what Jalen Hurts was going to do, but there was a lot of hype picking up for him. And then he went out and they smashed the Falcons in week 1, an easy opening schedule. He also had a very nice touchdown pass to Devontae Smith in that game, plus some really nice rushing plays. They win 32-6. So I want to look and see what happened to Jalen Hurts cards during this time period. So the first card I look at for Jalen Hurts is his Prism Silver, because of how many, 3,500 roughly different cards that were printed for Jalen Hurts in 2020. I want to try and look at it more of a liquid short print card here in a PSA 10 format. It's got an average resale of 428. So if I go back to 2021 and I'm looking through November, I'm seeing a lot of $400 type of transactions. A lot of the lowest I see it get to there is $250, but let's go back here to the beginning of the season. I don't really see any buy it now transactions at all. You actually don't see any buy it now transactions on this card at all, but you do see a clear jump from August 20th, which was, speculation, hype, but ultimately, not sure if he's got the necessary passing acumen to really be a great starting quarterback. Don't know if the Eagles have confidence, blah, blah, blah. They go out, smash the Falcons week 1, and that week, if you look at this would have been 5 days after that game, so this would have been that following Friday, this would have been that Sunday. There was auctions that closed at $1,225 and another one that closed at $1,100. So these people absolutely smashed with those sales there, because then the card would only go down. As if you look in week 2 of that week, they lose to the 49ers. If we go to week 3, the Eagles then get smashed by the Cowboys. So he got brought back down, right back to earth. Now we look at his base Prism PSA 10, which we have a lot more transactions on. You can definitely see that draft hype cycle. The Eagles do not take another quarterback. Obviously, you can see this has done well for Jalen Hurts cards. Off-season cool off there through June, July, August. Now we see that week 1 spike. Let's come down here and see what happened in week 1 of last year for Jalen Hurts rookie cards. Let's check it out. 9.5, 9.14. Do we have any buy it now transactions? We do not, but we see a clear increase in the amount in which the auctions were closing at. We go from 167, 178, 192 to 315, 285, 270, 267, 270, 281. And again, you can see it's actually taken a couple weeks for it to cool back off to that 200, to the 150, to the 174, even after losing in week 2. People really didn't react until after losing that week 3. Now all of a sudden that card tanks back down to even under $100 by the end of October. So this is kind of what happens at the beginning of the season. This is a perfect example. He may have been still putting up good numbers for fantasy football in this time period, but his team was not winning. They were not winning at the pace in which you would need them to win for these prices to continue climbing. Because the expectations were baked in at this price point heading into the season of 150. Wins were baked into that, so they had to keep winning for that to keep climbing, and they did in week 1, and so you did see it climb. However, after that, when they started losing, it was only until after the season was over that you can see those prices probably start to go back up here for Jalen Hurts. Well, at this point now we're in a different evolution of the market, and Jalen Hurts is lost confidence in the front office, the coaching staff, because of issues with his passing game. People were left with a bad taste in their mouth after losing the Tampa Bay Bucks in the playoffs. But then you come in and he gets A.J. Brown here in the big trade of the draft, and that card goes up to $100. It closed an auction at $115. Now we can see higher average resale values on that card climbing to where now it's closing an auction on average of $90. So very interesting data to look at there. This was Jalen Hurts 2021 Prism. What is this? This is image. What is this at 1200? Oh, silver prism auto here. So I wanted to look and see a little bit higher end card as well. And this card during the draft hype cycle, 2,225 buy it now transactions, draft hype cycle. This is of 2021, not this year. And then it tanked all the way down. Card's pretty rare, especially in this grade. So it tanked down to those prices throughout the season. No buy it nows, only auctions, getting as low as $625, only for it to go back up to $1,200 and $1,025 after getting the A.J. Brown acquisition. So just very telling data there as well of what impacts card prices. Then I looked at Jameis Winston because he had that infamous week 1 last year where they absolutely smashed the Green Bay Packers, and Rodgers looked terrible. So it's hard to find. Again, 2015 is another interesting year where Topps was in the game. There's a lot of different variations, multiple base photo variations for the Prism as well this year, but this is the base photo variation. This is in the PSA 10 grade. There's also a lot of cards from Jameis Winston, former number 1 overall draft pick from 2015. A lot of those cards are graded by BGS. BGS was a lot more prevalent. A lot of people submitted their cards to them in those earlier years, talking 2015, 2014, 2016 kind of stuff. So let's look at this. Let's go back and look last year, going to the Saints. What did this do? Yeah, there was a $349.99 buy it now in the summer of last year. We're getting a little positive buzz about Jameis Winston being a Saints starting quarterback, but they go out and smash in week 1 on September 12th. And we don't really see an immediate reaction to that day, and there may not have been listings. There may have only been an auction that you could potentially get in on. That auction closed 9/17, 5 days later, which would have been that Friday for $255. But they immediately fall back down, right? Because we look at them losing. He got destroyed by the Panthers in week 2, and they lost in that game, and Darnold went up. Jameis Winston went back down. He also threw an ugly interception, so he goes back down to 201. And they just never really did enough from there on out for those to go up. And then he gets hurt, tears his ACL, and those cards just continue to drop. You see where you could have got them in the beginning of December for $41. Absolute steals, because look at where they're at now. Draft hype cycle, there was a bin for $150. You could have tripled your money from December 14th of 2021 to the draft hype cycle here March 30th of 2022. And even today, I believe that you could potentially, because we don't even see any listings of this card in PSA 10 format on eBay right now. The other one I found a lot of transactions for was base Topps Chrome from 2015, graded to a PSA 10, average now of just $30. But if we go back to September of last year, this is one that got quite a few transactions, and I think that's just because there were available listings. Look at this, 9/12/2021. We can see a couple auctions that closed almost $200, guys. So you could see, if you can only imagine if you had those Prism PSA 10s listed at that time, you would have absolutely smashed. You would have made some nice money on them. But because look at these base top Chrome PSA 10 cards ending at close to $200, man. And throughout that entire week, they were just flying out the shelves. $200, $275. This one sold for $275. Emu cards here absolutely smashed and made out like a bandit. You can see 917 there selling for 200. And that can, like I said, man, that momentum carried even though they lost. It would have been lost on 919. If you had an auction ending on that week 2 matchup against Carolina, it's an interdivisional matchup, big matchup, and Carolina smashes them. Even though you had this auction ending at the beginning, you would have made $250 on that transaction. Absolute monster transaction, because after that they go down. These auctions were probably ending later that night, and that was after the loss. So it's very important to have those auctions ending at the beginning of the game. Don't take the risk. Ultimately, I'm a big buy now. So let's look at what we could potentially see this year. Some guys I'm projecting. Well, of course, the one is going to be Jalen Hurts on the Eagles. He's got A.J. Brown. We've seen the hype cool off throughout the summer. I expect him to potentially smash the Lions here week 1 and have those card values go up. So I like that kind of correlation there. It's going to be interesting to see, but Trey Lance should start, so that's a great matchup for Trey Lance, but he's got a lot of hype, a lot of expectations and value already baked into his card. So that's a guy that I'm not touching until November and we see what happens. And then kind of like going further down the list here, big matchup for Tua week 1. The Panthers, you know, I don't know. I think it's still very up in the air who they're going to start week 1 at quarterback. We're also supposed to get a suspension notification about Deshaun Watson here, but it looks like the season's going to start out with Jacoby Brissett. They're not going to amend with Baker Mayfield. It's going to start out with Jacoby Brissett. And then we go Texans, Colts. I think this could be a great spot for Matt Ryan's card values to go up. I think the Colts can absolutely smash here. Matt Ryan, connection with Michael Pittman Jr., Paris Campbell, that whole offense, maybe in some Ashton Dulin and Alec Pierce sprinkled in. Of course, Jonathan Taylor is going to be a focal point. Naeem Hines might get involved in the passing game. So Matt Ryan could be a big benefactor of a really easy week 1 schedule against the Texans. On the other end, Davis Mills could turn into a shootout. The Colts still win. That's even better for Matt Ryan. So this Commanders-Jags game, another couple teams that a lot of people are not high on this year, including Vegas. You know, Vegas has the Texans, Jags, Commanders, and Panthers all at the bottom of the NFL in win odds, including the Falcons. So another prime situation here for Jameis Winston, if he's healthy, to go out and light things up with the rookie Chris Olave, newfound Jarvis Landry. They also got the Honey Badger. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs and hype for the Saints heading to this year, so we could see that happen with Jameis Winston coming out of the gate if he's back healthy. Matt Ryan, there's high expectations baked in for Trevor Lawrence, but what if Carson Wentz comes out? See, this is where it could lag a little bit, because even if Carson Wentz comes out and lights up the Jags, after the stinky finish that he had last year with the Colts and how they basically fired him, you know, it's gonna require more than just a 1-week performance against the Jags to get Carson Wentz's cards to really go up. Now, he could put up 4 or 5 touchdowns, maybe just have an absolute just spectacular game with Terry McLaurin, John Dotson, Logan Thomas, and Antonio Gibson and the guys, and just smash the Jaguars. But I don't necessarily see that happening regardless of the finish. One here to watch out for, Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings. There's a new offensive look this year with Kevin O'Donnell coaching. He's the former Rams offensive coordinator. Faster pace of play, more explosive, more passing. Kirk Cousins, one of the best deep ball completion, most accurate gunslinging passers. Now, he does have this infamous losing in primetime scenarios, Monday night, Thursday night, playoffs. That's not Kirk Cousins' thing, but maybe he can turn around this year with new head coach and Kevin O'Donnell. And I think they could start it out week 1 against the Packers. This is a big game because this is interdivisional. I really, really, really love that. Also, important to note, Lamar Jackson and the Jets have an easy week 1 schedule to start this week out. And then we round off the week with, you know, a couple more matchups here. But the one I really want to focus on is the Broncos facing the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday Night Football. Or actually, well, that would be Monday Night Football. So they're facing the Seahawks on Monday Night Football. This is a total revenge game. Russell Wilson, new team, facing his old team. He's absolutely going to destroy them because the Seahawks are just decimated in terms of roster. Pete Carroll's still the head coach, and the Broncos are going to play fast. They're going to they're just going to muscle the ball down their throats, and it's going to be a total revenge game for Russell Wilson and the Broncos. I could see him putting up some gaudy passing numbers against the Seahawks in this Monday night game when the entire country is watching, and his cards definitely going up as a result. And so that is absolutely something to watch. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. I know I've given you a ton of information to consume, so I hope you enjoyed it today. I'll see you next time on The Quest. We'll break down more weeks of action this NFL upcoming season. Peace.